When we're young, we have an amazing, positive outlook about how great life is going to be, but somewhere along the line, we forget to dream and end up settling. Join Up Dots features amazing people who refuse to give up and chose to go after their dreams. This is your blueprint for greatness. So here's your host, live from the back of his garden in the UK, David Ralph.
Hello there, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Join Up Dots. Actually, episode 43. It's the 10th of June, 2014, and everything is good in the world. I'm particularly excited to have this conversation today, and I'll tell you why. Because when I started getting this show together, there's been one or two names that keep on appearing, especially when you're in the online world. There's the name of Pat Flynn, which you probably know. There's been the name of John Lee Dumas, and Mr. Dumas, I'm coming after you. And there's this man here, Mr. Well, I'll let you know at the end, because he is a man who, upon reading his About page, I thought, blimey, we really have something in common, because he quit his 9-to-5 job in September 2013, exactly the same month as I have, and has since embarked on a daily mission to create an income-producing production line whilst inspiring, motivating and empowering 1 million people. Big dreams. Now, our guest wants to put a plan in place to help 1 million people leave their corporate job by building a business they love, so they can live life on their own terms. And that is something that I am all ears for, and I have my pen and paper at the ready. He's worked with major companies and smaller businesses, including top professional sports teams, Fortune 500 companies, industry-leading entrepreneurs, and even local businesses, as he helps everyone develop their mobile marketing strategy. But how has he done it? How has he, since September 2013, found the courage to quit his job, sell his house, get married, that takes a lot of courage, start his own blog, podcast, coaching business, while still retaining control of his own destiny? Well, let's find out as we start joining up dots with the one and only mobile master, Mr. Greg Hickman. How are you today, sir?
I am fantastic. Thank you for having me.
No, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. And you are a name, as I say. It's really weird in online world, and I don't know if you find this, that if you are very much on the PC side of things, certain names keep on appearing, and you almost kind of think that they are world famous. For example, the amount of times people have spoken to me about the man Pat Flynn, and then I will talk to somebody in the street and I go, never heard of him at all. And you're somebody that if you sort of do anything, probably every fifth page or something, your smiling face comes up. And it is always smiling. You've done a lot since September 2013 to get so out there, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And before that, honestly, a lot of what I was doing was on the side before I was able to make that transition. So it started well before September.
It normally does, doesn't it? So tell us the sort of starting date, the rough starting date, because for all overnight successes, there's normally been sort of 4 or 5 years of very late nights and early mornings and weekends and stuff. So when did this sort of vibe of actually branching out on your own start?
Well, in 2008, I started a consulting company with 2 other people, which was a side thing. And it turned into a text message marketing software company, which didn't go anywhere. It was 2.5 years of really struggling, trying to get that thing off the ground, until we got to the point where we decided to shut it down. I mean, we had maybe like 10 clients, and that didn't really go well. And I told myself the next time I do anything, I'm just going to be, me, myself, and I starting it, and, not being equal partners with 2 other people. And that's sort of when Mobile Mixed was born, my first blog and podcast, which was really started out of selfish reasons, to start interviewing people that I thought were doing cool things in the mobile marketing world, so that I could potentially find a mentor and even potentially get a consulting job out of that. So, the first effort was in 2008 for about 2.5 years, almost 3 years before I even started Mobile Mixed. And Mobile Mixed is where things really started to move forward for me. And that was that was June of 2012 is when that blog started, and the podcast started shortly thereafter that. And it started off as a video-based interview show, and then from there it turned into just an audio-only podcast, and then consulting, and then coaching, products, training, speaking, a lot of speaking. So through my podcast, I was able to get a lot of speaking arrangements, and it just kept growing from there. But I mean, like you said, it all started for me with a company before Mobile Mixed that most people don't even know about. So it got started a long time ago.
So have you ever been an employee?
Oh, yeah. Most of my life.
And how old are you now, Greg?
31. I'll be 32 in July.
Because you got one of those faces, and I mean this with the greatest respect, that you can't age. I was looking at you, and I was thinking, how old actually is he? And it's very hard to put an age on you. You're like a fine wine, I suppose.
I will take that. I appreciate that. Thank you.
It might mean that you've always looked very old.
Yeah, I get most people think that I'm older than I am. I think it's because I have some gray hairs, but it's the beard. It's really just the beard.
I've got two problems in my life. Not problems, really. One is that I'm going grey at a rate of knots, but not all over. If I could go straight to like George Clooney mode, then that's fine. Because I've got a theory with grey hair that if you go grey overnight, imagine like Steve Martin, he has looked exactly the same for the last 30 years because he's always been grey. And you never look at him thinking, oh, blimey, he's getting old now. He just looks exactly the same. So I think all of us should go grey overnight, but solidly grey. Not these patches that come out by the side. And
I got a few patches.
Does your wife like the greyness?
I think. I mean, I've never really talked about it. She's actually my fiance. We get married in October, so we're not married yet, but we'll be married soon. Oh, no worries. Yeah, we'll be married soon. And yeah, I think she likes it a little bit. But she makes fun of me that I'm old sometimes.
Because I'm now getting to that point when, I don't know if you've had this, when you go to the barbers and then they ask you whether, would you like a colour through your hair? Or they do this fantastic thing, which I always want to say, why? What is the matter? When they go, would you like your eyebrows trimmed? And I think to myself, what's the matter with my eyebrows? Is there, why are they saying this? But they say it every single time. Have you got to that point when parts of your hair that have always been okay as far as you're concerned, people are looking at them and saying, do you want some extra maintenance?
I think I've avoided that whole conversation because I've been cutting my own hair since high school. So I just buzz my head, and that's me cutting my hair. And I do it, once every other week. And I haven't so it's just me in there. So there's no other, stylist telling me to do anything.
Well, this is my last hair question. As I said before the interview started, I don't really know what I'm going to say until it comes out. But now I know that you shave. Do you just go all the way around? Do you go around your head and your beard all in one go? Or do you sort of do part of it?
No, I do. I usually do it all at the same time.
That's brilliant, isn't it? I'm so envious. If you listen back to episode 1 of this show, I have quite a deep conversation with a chap called Tom Morkes about his ability to grow facial hair that I just can't do. I end up as good as I described it at the time, as a prepubescent Asian girl. I just cannot get hair coming out like Mr. Tom Morkes or yourself. Right, that's the last hair question. I promise you that. Okay. So can you remember, on your About page, you said that you quit your 9-to-5 job in September 2013. Can you remember the day it was? I'm intrigued whether it's exactly the same day.
Well, yeah, so actually I got engaged in September of 2013, and I gave my company's notice in November, but my last day at my corporate job was actually December 13th. But yeah, so between September and December, I got engaged, sold my house, and quit my job.
So why? This is the question. There's so many people out there now thinking to themselves, right, I'd like to do this, but I'm so scared, or it's not going to work, or numerous different sort of doubts that run through their head. And you seem to sort of grab all the potential doubts in one go and went, bang, did them all.
Yeah.
How did you overcome that internal conflict that all of us have?
I mean, I'm still overcoming it. But I mean, for me, I had been building up Mobile Mixed for a year and a half, was gaining a lot of momentum, started making some money, was getting speaking arrangements, getting asked to speak. And it got to the point where I was working way too much. I was working, well, I still work a lot, but I working, my 9 to 5 and then, all through the night on Mobile Mixed. And it took a toll on my health. It took a toll on my relationship. And, at some point, I just needed to just say, okay, enough is enough. And, for me, it was the fear of not being able to like pay my mortgage or pay any certain bills. And, until I really sold my house, I mean, it wasn't really in the cards. I mean, I was making money on the side outside of my salary, but I didn't have a big savings. I had probably about $20,000 in debt. And, I didn't see a path for me to keep going the way that I was going in order to start making the type of money that I needed to make in order to leave. So my neighbor at the time had sold his house and sold it very quickly and did very well from selling it. So at that point, I realized that I could sell my house and use that as an investment in myself. And I sold the house. I paid off all my debt, and then I kind of had this safety net of money that I could tap into if I needed to, if things didn't go well. And at least that's what I told myself. And, I was also making money on the side at the same time. I was doing some consulting. I was making money from affiliate marketing. I had a membership site, things like that. So I was making some money, not as much as I'm making now or as I would have liked to have been making at that point. But I had incoming revenue, and now I had, with the sale of the house, enough money saved up that I was able to survive at least a year. Even if I were to make not a single dollar, I would have been able to make it a year off of the profits from the house, living modestly. I definitely moved into a smaller apartment, less rent, minimized a lot of my expenses. So I definitely shifted my lifestyle a lot. I don't go out as much. I don't eat out as much. I don't go out and have drinks with friends as much. So I definitely made a lot of sacrifices in order to do that. But yeah, I mean, the fear didn't go away. I just was able to manage the risk that I like my version of managing risk. Everyone has their own way of managing the risk, and everyone has different financial situations and things like that. So I can tell you that the risk will never go away. There's still risk. There's risk every day. And selling the house was one thing that I did to help manage that.
I think that's a wise way of doing it, because I actually, as your journey was the same, I spent about 3 years building up just enough money that would pay my bills each month.
There you go.
And if I then sat on the sofa, I could just afford Netflix as extra, and that was it. I was never going to see anybody else again. And I went through that sort of doubt in my head where I was thinking, right, okay, should I reduce all my bills? Should I reduce everything? And then I thought, well, you can't really do that. Not in my lifestyle, because I've got kids and stuff, and kids get used to a certain standard of living. So I thought to myself, right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to increase my income. So I started working on, as you did, affiliate marketing, and the kind of passive income where I could sleep and the money could come to us. But it was never enough to do the main thing. Excuse me, I'm going to cough here. Oh, apologies about that. That's the first cough I've done live on any of the shows. So you're honoured there. And so when I actually quit, I really was in Terrorland, and I walked out and I thought to myself, what do I do with my life? Because the only thing that I knew that I wanted to do was not work for somebody anymore. I'd come to the natural end of that journey. but I didn't have enough skills. I didn't have enough talent. I didn't have enough whatever to create a business overnight. But what I did have, and I've reflected on this a lot since, was suddenly a hustle muscle that I suddenly had to develop because I had no other option of living. I had to get out there. I had to make contacts. I had to send emails. I had to do that. And now it's a natural thing. I wake up at like 4 o'clock each morning, and as soon as I open my eyes, I think, oh God, it's too early. But suddenly, bang, what shall I do today? What shall I do? So how do you sort of switch off when you are in the entrepreneurial journey that every moment of the day could have an impact on your business and your livelihood?
So what was the real question? How do I manage it?
Yeah, how do you manage it? Because I wake up at 4 o'clock every morning, and I don't want to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. And if I'm sitting there watching a film on the sofa, I'm not really watching the film, How do you manage to switch off when you are in that entrepreneurial journey that every decision that you make can ultimately affect the success of your business?
I'm still working on that, to be honest with you. I have trouble switching off a lot. I mean, it's an ongoing challenge. I definitely, I get up and I try to start working as soon as I can because I feel like I'm most productive in the morning. And, as it gets into the evening, I'm trying to be better at this, but I'm not always good at this. Really just trying to turn off by 7 p.m. and, being okay with that. If, my fiance is around, it's a lot easier to turn off at 7 p.m. And when she's not, it's really easy to keep working. But it also comes and goes. I mean, like right now, I'm working probably a lot more than I normally would because I'm in the process of launching a training program for my mobile mixed audience. And, I pre-sold it and I have, 8 charter members in the program right now, kind of navigating through the platform, and I'm finishing creating all the content for it. So because they've already paid and because people are already in there, I'm working, every waking moment to get content into all the content done for that. And, once all of that's done, I'll be able to, kind of go back to a little bit more normal hours. So it comes and goes, right? I think there's going to be times where you have to work, all day and all night. And maybe that's during a launch. But ideally, if I could have it every day the same, it would be, I'm working by 7:30, and I'm, done by 6 or 7 p.m. at night.
Right, I'm going to make this question a lot shorter because the last one, as I went into rambling mode, no wonder you got confused. Before you quit your job, did you have the image of an entrepreneurial life when you were sitting on a beach with a laptop, clicking a few buttons, making income coming in, but now you're actually into it, you realize in many ways that you are working harder than you was as an employee? Because I certainly had that image of once I quit, my life was going to be my own and I could have long lunches and all that kind of stuff. And I'm working stupid hours, Greg. I really am. And my work-life balance has totally gone out the window.
No, I didn't have that image. And I don't want that now either. I never wanted to be able to sit on a beach and work. If I'm sitting on the beach, I want to be sitting on the beach and enjoying it. So, I enjoy what I do. I think, a lot of people that are, at least when I was getting started into all of this, there is a little bit of kind of interest for people to be able to work from wherever, right? And then when people say that, then they immediately start thinking of like tropical places and things like that. But to me, like wealth to me means working on something that I love, being passionate about it, and when I want to go visit friends or family that may not be in Denver, Colorado, which is where I'm at. So I have tons of friends in San Diego. My family's on the East Coast, in New Jersey. I want to be able to go there at the drop of a dime to see my friends and family for a couple days and come back and have that not be a financial burden, have that not be something that is, I have to plan 3 months for. And that's it. Like, I don't want to go travel. I mean, like, I'd like to go travel the world for like 2 weeks at a time on vacation, but I don't want to be that digital nomad, that works from, in all the different cities in Asia, like a lot of, online entrepreneurs, do and want to do. Like, that's not at all of interest to me. I love working from home. I love working out of my home office. I love that. And that's where I want to be. So like I always envisioned not having to commute 45 minutes to an hour every single day to go to this job, which was a complete, like, that time in the car outside of listening to podcasts was sort of a waste of time. And sometimes was even longer than 45 minutes, sometimes it could be an hour and a half. And then that's, 3 hours of my day is in a car. Like that didn't sound fun to me. And so my vision was just to be able to work from home, work from wherever I want. And the wherever I want was home.
I used to work up in the city of London, and my journey was 2.5 hours each way. And so 5 hours out of my day. And I had to do it the other day, and I went up there. And by the time I got there, I thought to myself, I don't think I could work after this anymore. I was so programmed into the commute was just what you do. But by the time I got off the train and then I got an underground and I fought my way through and then I got off at the other end, I physically felt exhausted by the time I'd got to where I used to work for the next 8 hours. Now I've got a commute at the end of my garden, and I run up the garden, it's 15 seconds, I sit down and I get to work. And I say to people, do you realise that there are opportunities now, especially online? Now, I'm not just going online all the time, because you can set up your own business, brick and mortar, or whatever you want to do. But certainly on the online avenue, it is effectively the cheapest way for you to be able to create a business, and not only create a business, but create a global business for, a nickel and a dime, really, isn't it?
Yeah, essentially. I mean, it is a lot cheaper than it was 5 years ago.
So what would you do if you went back in time now? Would you do all the affiliate marketing? Would you do the membership sites? Would you still go through that route, or from what you've learned now, would you go straight into where you are?
Well, I mean, affiliate was always just a little part of it for me. It's never been like my whole focus. It's always been around offering kind of consulting and now training products. So, and coaching. So, I mean, those have always been my main focus. Affiliate is just sort of, because I use a lot of these products and I can be an affiliate, I make a little bit of money every month from affiliate, but by no means is that my largest income stream. My largest income stream is actually coaching. And I would go into that. I would do the exact same thing if I did it again.
When you first had your first coach, your first client, were you daunted that you can pull it off?
I guess a little daunted, because I coached a handful of people for free to kind of get used to and find my own rhythm as a coach, and then I started charging. So I think that really helped me kind of figure out what my style was and get comfortable with, the format in which I was going to coach people. And so I think I was a little less scared because of that preparation. But yeah, I mean, it was like, you don't want to like disappoint the first real paying client. And I mean, I'm still working with the same client. I've been working with my first coaching client I've been working with for now a year, almost a year. We've been working together. So I guess it didn't go so bad.
Well, no, it didn't. But how do you keep on coaching somebody in the industry that you're in? I don't know much about mobile marketing at all, and I'm going to ask you about that now. Actually, what is mobile mix? But how do you keep on coaching somebody in that environment? Is it because the technology keeps on changing and you've got to keep up with pace?
Yes, and actually, the people that I coach is not necessarily around mobile marketing. I coach people on building their business online. So, getting their blog started, getting their podcast started, figuring out what type of content they should be writing, building their email list. Like that's the type of people that I've been coaching. And that's just the people that have kind of been attracted to me. I've worked with other, on a project basis when it comes to mobile, and here and there I work with, an agency on a particular project, but I don't really coach on mobile per se. It's really all about online business.
When you did your podcast, were you happy with it when you first started?
No. What happened for me was because I started it out of selfish reasons of just wanting to build relationships with these people. I wasn't like trying to grow an audience, although it started happening. And it got to the point where, I was doing a weekly show, but it was a weekly show as a side project. I had a full-time job. So I got to the point where I was just chasing interview after interview after interview. Like you had or have, you've like recorded over 70 some odd interviews already, and this is only 43. I did not do that. I didn't know about that. That was not a strategy that had ever been shared with me when I got started. And I was just trying to get as many interviews each and every week as I could. And, there would be nights where I was editing an interview at, Tuesday at 2 a.m. and releasing it, Wednesday. And, it turned into just a show. That's all it was. It was a show, and the show owned me. The show ran my life because I didn't put any systems or structure in place to make it easy on myself.
And the actual recording process, because I'm listening to your voice at the moment and it sounds perfect for podcasting. It's kind of deep, manly voice, not like the kind of girly English accent that I have. But when you first started recording them, because I've been absolutely clear and transparent with people that every single word that I have ever recorded is out there. I didn't want anyone to come along, because the idea of Join Up Dots is that we struggle and we have successes and we find our path in life only by going out and sort of taking action. And I didn't want a highlight show to be out there already that has actually been secretly practiced for sort of weeks and weeks and weeks and years. So if you listen to episode 0.5, hopefully it's not as good as episode 10, and 10's not as good as episode 40. And even now that I've recorded so many, I have some shows that I think, yes, nailed that one. And others, even when I'm recording it, I think, I'm all over the shop. What's happening here? Why is this happening? The guest is great. It must be me. So when you started recording your very first ones and you listened back, how did it make you feel? Did it make you feel that, yes, I'm proud of this, I want to push this out, or actually, I don't think I'm quite ready for this?
I didn't do any like practice recordings. I was sort of like you. I knew that if I recorded my first interview and put it out there, that I would be more motivated to kind of keep going, because I'd see how bad it was and want to make the next one better. So for me, it was all about getting it out there so that I knew I would have to keep going, because I didn't want the most recent interview to be the best one. I wanted the next one to be the best one.
It's a key thing, isn't it, for anyone out there listening to us talk today, that you have a starting point. And it doesn't matter where it is, you have your own individual starting point. And the best thing that you can do, if there's something out there that you really fancy doing, I kind of believe stop listening to those people that are doing it to a point. If you fancy doing a podcast, the people out there have been doing it for years and years and years, and they will send fear down you that you can sort of match up to it. So find maybe 1 or 2, 3 that you can focus in and then hone your skills, but just be aware that you're not going to be very good to begin with, but just keep on going, and then suddenly things will start clicking and you'll find your flow and you'll find your rhythm, and then you think, actually, I think I can do this.
Yeah, absolutely. I would 100% agree with that.
Well, I'm glad you agreed with me, because, I'm the host of the show, and that's what I like.
Exactly.
I like a bit of agreement. I don't get it at home, so while I'm on the mic, suck up all you can, Mr. Hickman. Now, While we're actually at this point of talking about stumbles and failures, one of the themes of the show, and it's probably the main theme of the show, is Steve Jobs' speech back in 2005 when he talked to a bunch of graduates on quite a lengthy speech, but it's the middle bit that really resonated with me, and I've built a whole show around. And this is the bit about connecting the dots and having faith and trusting that things are going to work out all right for you. And I'm going to play it now, and I want to get your feelings about this and when you first heard it, and if you remember when you first heard it, and whether it was relevant to you now, or maybe it's not. So this is Mr. Steve Jobs, and then we'll speak again in a moment.
Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college, but it was very, very clear looking backwards 10 years later. Again, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever, because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart, even when it leads you off the well-worn path, and that will make all the difference.
So as you were saying, at the beginning, you were frightened, and you are still frightened now in certain areas.
Yeah.
So why do it? Why do it, Greg? Why trust that things are going to join up?
Why wouldn't I?
Well, yeah. Why would you do it? If you're scared, why would you actually put yourself into that area of being scared?
Because it's the only way that I really felt like I was going to get to where I wanted to be. I mean, I wanted to work for myself. I wanted to run my own business. I wanted to work from home. I wanted to be able to make money and have a flexible schedule. And, working for someone else, that was never going to happen. So no matter how scary it was to sell my house, take the leap, and, dive into this 100%, the only way that I felt like I even had a chance was if I gave it 100% of my time, because I saw the progress that I was making with 10% of my effort and 10% of my time because I had a full-time job. So, I just kept telling myself, well, if I could have gotten this far, gotten all of these speaking arrangements, done all of this while on the side, imagine what I can do with 100% of my focus on it. So, I mean, that's kind of what I just kept telling myself. And, I thankfully I had I've worked with coaches and mentors that, have really helped me along the way. And, without them, I don't think I would have gotten to where I'm at right now. I work with a coach now, and I work with him every single week. Once a week we talk. And it is very, very critical and key to me staying on the right path and focus on the right things, being able to bounce that off of someone. So I think with the relationships I had built, I knew that, and my dedication to making it work, I knew that it was going to work.
So do you go with the words of Mr. Steve Jobs? When you listen to those, do you actually buy into them, or do you think, no, actually it's nice words, but it doesn't actually have any relevance to me?
No, it 100% resonates with me. How can you connect the dots to something that you can't see in the future? I mean, obviously when you look backwards, oh yeah, like that makes sense. That makes sense how I got here. I did X, Y, Z, and you can start painting that path, but you don't know exactly where you're going to go tomorrow. You might have an idea, but that's also the great part about this is, I know where I want to. I have like goals for myself of what I want to accomplish, but there's a number of ways I can get there. I can get there, zigzagging my way through. I can get there direct path, and I have to figure out what that is, and which is the right path for me personally, and whether it's maybe it's not maybe the right path isn't the fastest path, so, or the most comfortable path for that matter. So I've been through my coach kind of learned that if as an entrepreneur you need to, and I'm saying you, but really I mean me, as an entrepreneur I need to be or find comfort in uncomfortable situations, because that's where all of the breakthroughs end up happening. So now when I say, this doesn't really feel so good, or this doesn't feel right, like that's when I know I'm on the right path, because I just got to keep down this path because it doesn't feel right, which means there's something I'm somehow on the right path, even though it doesn't feel comfortable. But pushing yourself to that extreme is when I think, the true kind of greatness within us is able to come out.
That is brilliant. I'll be honest with you, that is brilliant. And I want people to really reflect on what Greg just said, because that really does emphasize everything that I'm trying to get out there on a daily basis. If you feel scared, it's generally because it's something that you're not comfortable with. And the only way that you can become comfortable is by following that path. Now, when I started this, I was terrified, absolutely terrified. Now, looking back on it, I kind of think to myself, why was I so terrified? It's only having a conversation, recording and putting it out on the online world. But I was totally terrified. Now, I'm terrified by other things. But I know that those kind of things are the things that are ultimately going to lead me to whatever I want to achieve. So you really do have to focus in on your gut, your intuition. And if you are scared and if you are uncomfortable, that's actually a good thing, isn't it? That's the thing that you should listen to yourself and go, this is meaning that I'm going to be growing somehow.
Yeah. I mean, it really is that, anyone listening, like if you're on the fence of what should you do? When should you take the leap? Like there's never really going to be a good time. And you'll always find a way to tell yourself that there will never be a good time. And there's always going to be risk. There's always going to be fear. I mean, if you listen to my latest podcast called Leaving Corporate, I mean, you talk to these entrepreneurs that, found a way to, start making money on the side and leave their job. Like almost all of them still have challenges today, struggles today. I mean, John Lee Dumas was on my first interview. Thankfully, he's a very good friend of mine. He deals with challenges every single day. Like he's trying to get better every single day. Sometimes he's scared. I mean, you could look at how much money he's making, and there's still things that scare him. Like, because there's so much uncertainty. Like who knows what tomorrow is going to bring, and that's okay. You don't need to know. Like you can just keep building and working on the thing that you're working on, and you'll get there. Because like when I work with some of my own coaching students, it's like, look at what got you here. Like you're already here. Like you're already doing great things, and you've been doing a lot of other stuff to get here. So why not look back to see what you were doing that even got you to this place? And I say the same thing about myself. Like I must have been doing something right, because, I'm getting asked to be interviewed. I'm getting asked to speak, so I'm doing something right. So why not keep doing what I'm doing? And I mean, I didn't know what I was doing last month, and I continue to keep growing. So, it's like, you just have to kind of trust in yourself and have faith in yourself that what you're working on you're working on the right things, and you'll find out if it's the right thing by continuing to focus on it.
It is a funny thing, flippantly at the beginning I said, Mr. Lee Dumas, I'm coming for you. But I do kind of feel that. Now, if anybody is out there in podcasting land, I'm sure that you've heard of the show Entrepreneur on Fire. But John Lee Dumas was really a forerunner. Well, he certainly inspired me to go daily. I don't think it would even have crossed my mind that you could put the structure in to be able to do a daily show. And the fact that he is, to use the American phrase, which we don't use in the United Kingdom, crushing it, but he's still scared, it's amazing, isn't it? Because you would think at that level of success, and you can go on his show and you can see his income reports, and last time I think I looked, it was like $200,000 a month. You kind of think to yourself, okay, be scared for 4 months and then enjoy yourself for the rest of the year. On that kind of money, why do you need to be scared? But of course, it's because he's going into the unknown. He's trying to prove himself. He's trying to find avenues to change and to develop his business. And it's refreshing that you say that, because it's certainly, in my early little stage that I'm going at now, to see his success is something that, obviously I want to replicate. But as I become more and more scared, because this thing gets bigger and bigger and bigger, I will find that quite comforting that he is scared as well.
Yeah, and it's funny because you know, when I first got started, you know, a lot of us look at, and I don't know if this is going to be super. I think this is relevant, so bear with me on this one. A lot of
Is it
us
as relevant about you shaving your head?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, one of the things I often hear when I'm like talking to entrepreneurs that are just getting started is that like they start comparing themselves to, like, for example, if I'm talking to someone, if someone listening right now is just getting started, you can't compare yourself to John Lee Dumas. You can't compare yourself to Pat Flynn. At least though you can't compare yourself to them right now. If you could go and find out what John Lee Dumas was like on day one or what Pat Flynn was like on day one, that would make more sense. But most of us never tend to do that or think in that way. And I'm guilty of this too. I do this just as I do this as well. I've gotten a lot better with it. But we compare ourselves to someone who's been doing this for 7 years, and I mean 7 or 8 years in Pat Flynn's case. You know, John's been doing this for a couple of years now. You know, so like you can't look at their level of success to where they're at in this moment in time and be hard on yourself because you're not there, because they were the exact same as you when they just started. And that's what you need to understand. And a lot of people like look up to, you know, those folks and, you know, even other, you know, online successful online entrepreneurs. And they're like, they look at them like celebrities, right? But they're exactly like you and I, right? You know, they all started with not having a blog, not having a podcast. They all, like a lot of them started with a full-time job that they loved, and they found themselves where they're at today over the course of multiple years of putting in extremely hard work and figuring it out each and every day. And, you know, anyone listening, just know that like even today, those people have challenges and they're trying to figure out, okay, well, how do I get my business to the next level? And that's why they got to where they're at today, because every single day they're still asking themselves, how am I going to take this further? How am I going to impact more people? How am I going to affect more businesses? How am I going to help more people get started online? Like, and how am I going to take my business to the next level? Like, just because John's doing $200,000 a month doesn't mean he's not sitting there saying, well, how am I going to get to 225? How am I going to get to 250? Like, he has those conversations, and whether that number was 200 or 250, like he was having that same conversation when it was how am I going to get from 0 to 1,000? How am I going to get from 1,000 to 2,000? Like, you know, they just started earlier. So you can't look at yourself and compare yourself to those people where they're at right now, because they were exactly where you're at when they first started.
I remember listening to a podcast a while back, and it's somebody who has inspired me as well, and I talk about him on the show, and I know you've been on his show because I listened to it, and it was Mr. Michael O'Neill, and on
oh yeah, he's great.
Solopreneur.
Yeah,
and
great guy.
One of his guests said, there is no good or bad, you're just on a different timeline. And so if you look at somebody who is doing something and they're really nailing it, it's just because they are on a further timeline. They're further down the line. And when I listened to this, I found it liberating, that I thought, yeah, you're absolutely right. So I can start and I can allow myself to be rubbish, because if I work at it, I can then move down that timeline. And ultimately, I'm going to get close to, or hopefully catch up some of these guys, because I have worked at it. And as I'm here at the moment, I'm talking to you, Greg, and I envy you, because I have those same thoughts. I'm looking at you thinking, God, he's got it so sorted. He's got it so controlled. He's doing this, he's doing that, and he's preparing for this business, and he's doing that, and all kind of. And I'm just kind of making it up as I go along. And every day I turn the microphone on. Yeah, and it's strange. And anyone who's listening out there, every time, and I've said this so many times, every time I turn the microphone on and I go, hello and welcome to, I think, oh my God, what am I going to talk about? Is it going to flow? Is it going to, stumble into nothing? And I really feel like I'm kind of bodging along, really. I'm just about getting through it with the skin of my teeth. But now I look at it and I think, well, this is the 43rd episode. And I've been doing it on a daily basis. And there's not many people out there that are doing daily shows, so I must be ahead of the curve. But I don't feel like it. I really don't feel like it. I feel like I'm making it up as I go along, and I feel I've got no idea what I'm doing in any shape or form. But I look at people like you and I think, that's what I want to be. I want to be Mr. Hickman.
Yeah, and so I want to make a statement based on what you just said. So you made a comment, at some point I'll catch up. Why do you need to catch up?
That's a very good question.
See,
why do I,
so here's my thing.
I know the answer, actually. I'll come back to the answer because I have an image in my head, and I've mentioned this before, that I have people that I aspire to be. And I have people like Michael O'Neill on the Solopreneur Hour, or John Lee Dumas, and these guys. And I had this image of going to San Diego, because I'm in the United Kingdom, going to San Diego, having a beer, and feeling like I'm an equal. And it's as simple as that. I think it's the internal dialogue that I feel like I've created worth in myself. And I think that's when I say catching up. I wouldn't want to be having a conversation with any of these guys thinking, oh my God, I'm so in awe of them. I would like to go in and go, yeah, I've got my own show and I'm on iTunes and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And we're just coming from slightly different angles, but we are kind of equals. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think, and what I want to make sure that the people listening take away is something that I was guilty of in the past, which definitely slowed me down. And it's letting the success of other people define what success means to you. Like anyone could go out there and say, oh, Pat Flynn makes, $70,000 or $80,000 a month or whatever. And all of a sudden their goal is to make $70,000 or $80,000 a month. Like, why does your goal have to be $70,000 or $80,000 a month? Like, you don't have to have the same goals as Pat. And like, just because he's making $70,000 or $80,000 a month doesn't mean that that's necessarily what his goal of success, his definition of success means, So I think we look at these people, look at people just because we have the ability to see some of this transparency, and like we measure ourselves against what other people have done. And then all of a sudden we're not even defining what success means to us. We're just letting other people do it. And I think that's a big mistake because, I've talked to people that make way less than John or Pat or whoever, and they're completely happy, but they're not measuring themselves against anyone else but themselves. And that's what you need to be doing, and that's what we all need to be doing. We can't be comparing. It's either going to be him or me. We can all be successful and we can all be happy. You just have to define what that means for you.
I want Greg Hickman on every show. I'm going to market you. We're going to have little bendy Hickmans that we can put in the back of the car, and we'll just quote like a kind of bendy Yoda every now and again. Every time you go around a corner, you come out with some kind of wise words. Have you ever been called a bendy Yoda?
I haven't. I like it though.
So talking about the transparency, because a lot of these guys out there now, as you say, you do look at their income reports. And I'm not sure whether, I don't want this to be the Pat Flynn fan club, but I don't know whether he was the first person to do this. But it certainly seems, to my knowledge, that he was one of the first people to say, this is what I'm earning on a monthly basis. But do you think it's a good thing that they're doing this, or do you think ultimately it's a bad thing because we do look at it with stars in our eyes?
I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. Well, so here's the challenge. I think it's a good thing that they're doing it, but unfortunately, they don't have control over how people respond to it. So they're doing it for good intentions, and from my understanding, Pat was the first one that did it too. But what's great is you can go back and look to when Pat was making way less. So like you can see over the 7 or 8 years or whatever it's been, like how he's grown, and that's important. But what the problem is, most people probably don't go back and look at all of that. Like I wish there was a way that we could force everyone to look at his first income report, which was still amazing, by the way. But I mean, if everyone was forced to go back and look at each one, before they could see the most recent, you would see that it's taken a long, long time for him to get there. It's not like he's just did this overnight. So I think, unfortunately, whoever shares their income, they can't really control how the viewer of that report is going to interpret that and digest that. I think it's going to intimidate. It'll intimidate some people. It'll make them say, "Oh, I can't do that. Not me." Like that's only they can do that. So that's the unfortunate part about it. But I do think it's a good thing because when you track it over time, you really do see the growth and that it wasn't an overnight success by any means. So that's kind of my take on that.
What super skills have you got, Greg?
Super skills?
Yeah.
I don't have any super skills.
You have no super skills at all. We're sitting here, as we say, and there's people out there listening to the highlights. Basically, you're doing, great stuff out there. You're helping all these companies and you're coaching. And there's certain people out there, and there are probably loads of people out there that are in corporate jobs, and they would love to be doing what you're doing at the moment. So when you first started, what super skills did you have that set you apart from our listeners?
I don't think it's a super skill. I just think it was something that I have a knack for doing. I have a really good knack for connecting with the right people and the influencers and building really good relationships with them. And that's something that, I've been pretty good at and has definitely benefited the growth of myself personally and my business. But that all came from just asking questions, being genuine, and actually caring to contribute. I was out there commenting on Pat's blog, before I ever knew him. When I found an opportunity to get him on my podcast, I got him on my podcast as a guest. When I was getting ready to go to my first conference, I shot Pat an email and I said, "Hey, and this is after I had interviewed him, so he knew who I was a little bit. And I said, hey, if you could go to only one conference, and you didn't have a lot of money, your first conference, where would you go?" He told me to go to New Media Expo, and he said, hey, let's hang out. Would love to meet you in person. And then I was like, all right, sweet. So I went to New Media Expo, basically to meet Pat, I continued trying to build that relationship. And now I'm very blessed, grateful, and pumped that he's a very good friend of mine. We talk on a regular basis, and that's just from me caring about what he's doing and genuinely caring and reaching out to him and being a friend and supporting him in ways that, whether it's commenting on his blog or leaving a review for his podcast or, sharing his stuff, giving him ideas or feedback when I just felt like I could add value, doing that with those sorts of people has really, really helped me. And, I think is a part of how I have been able to grow.
So anyone out there could do the same?
Absolutely. There's nothing super about it. It's just putting in the effort.
It's overcoming that fear again, isn't it? It's overcoming.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Overcoming that fear, because I could have been like, oh, why is Pat going to talk to me? I could have been saying those things too, but I didn't even care because, he's so transparent online. He shares his family. He feels just like a regular person. Because he is, just like everybody else. And I don't know, for me, that made it seem like he was easy to engage with, and he was.
I've actually got him coming on the show. He's agreed to come on the show, as has Michael O'Neill, as has John Lee Dumas, and I keep on putting them off.
Am I on before them?
You're on before them.
Yes.
You're on a long way before them. And I keep on thinking, right, I should do it now. But because they were people that I looked up to when I started this, I'm still a bit frightened that I'm not going to do myself justice. I was like that. There was a chap called Rick Calvert. I don't know if you know Rick Calvert.
Yeah, I know Rick.
And he was on episode 20. And I was basically having an out-of-body experience leading up to that one, because I felt like he was going to say, you are rubbish, and because I'm New Media Expo head and the blogging person, I'm going to pull the mic out of you and cut your electricity off, and you're never going to do it again. Now, there was no reason for that kind of fear, but as I went into it, I thought, I've got to be good on this one. I've got to be good on this one. And those guys, I should just do them. I should just say, come on, let's book it in and just do it. But I don't. I keep on moving on.
Stop. You just got to do it.
I still have those fears. Mr. Hickman.
Gotta do it. Dude, you're 43 episodes, well, more than that, recorded. Like, you're well more prepared. You're so prepared to be having those conversations. Just do it.
It's stupid, isn't it? It's stupid.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Well, just before I let you off the leash and let you run around Colorado doing whatever Americans do in Colorado, this is the part of the show that I like to call the Sermon on the Mic. And this is when I send you back in time to have a one-on-one with your younger self. And what kind of advice would you give to the young Greg Hickman? And you can choose any age. It can be a 5-year-old, it could be an 11-year-old, it could even be a toddler. Whatever advice you want to give to them, this is the Sermon on the Mic. And when the music fades out, you're on.
Here we go with the best bit of the show, the Sermon on the Mic, the Sermon on the Mic.
So the biggest advice I could give is to not overcommit, because overcommitting will get you down on yourself when you really don't meet those objectives. So make sure you're not kind of putting too much on your plate, because you're going to put too much on your plate. And when you don't accomplish those things, it's going to be really easy to beat yourself up over it. So make sure that when you put plans in place, when you give yourself goals, that they're reasonable goals, they're realistic goals, and there are goals that allow you to push yourself, but also are obtainable goals, because you want to build momentum, and momentum is one of the most powerful things that you can do for yourself, is build that momentum. And outside of that overcommitment, if you can look as far in the future as possible and determine what your goals are and break them down into mini goals or mini milestones, aim for the mini milestones each and every day, each and every week, each and every month. And as you continue to reach those mini goals, you'll get to your bigger goals.
Mr. Greg Hickman, it's been an absolute delight to have you on the show today. You've been open, generous, and extremely talkative, which is great for a guest. As I say to everyone, please come back, especially when you launch your next product. Because the thing about joining up the dots, it's not just looking backwards. It is actually those dots keep on moving forwards as well. And I do believe that by joining up those dots and connecting our past, we really have the best opportunities to build our future. Mr. Greg Hickman, thank you so much.
Thank you. The pleasure was all mine.
David doesn't want you to become a faded version of the brilliant self you were once to become. So he's put together an amazing guide for you called the 8 Pieces of Advice That Every Successful Entrepreneur Practices, including the 2 that changed his life. Head over to joinupdots.com to download this amazing guide for free, and we'll see you tomorrow on Join Up Dots.